So, just as an FYI, this is the penultimate Seared Stories from the Self podcast. My name is Paul Silva. Always has been, always will be, as long as I'm here on this mortal coil. Yes, you heard me correct. This will be the second last episode. And it's all good. It's all good. You know, I didn't explode into millions of viewers and followers, and that's okay. The point of this was what I have learned and share with others is to just follow what lights you up. Do that thing. And this has been totally lighting me up. And now I'm just feeling drawn and pulled to other things. And so, what came about this actually was a question that I had asked someone else, or I heard it, I can't remember what it was. And that is, what are you willing to let go of? Or what is it that you are holding on to that you need to let go of? And when I heard that question, this podcast came up, which shocked me because I thought I'd get to at least 100 episodes. I think this will be 50 something, late 50s, like me, 54. But it shocked me. But then as soon as I said it out loud to myself, I'm like, you know what? That's correct. It's absolutely correct. And so I'm honoring that. And I wasn't sure how many more episodes I would actually do. I thought maybe do 3 or 4, but today 2 came to mind. And this, my friend, my fellow loyal listener, viewer, / both, this is the second last. And then next week, whenever I do this last one, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. I barely know what I'm going to talk about today. I do know what I'm going to talk about today. So don't let my mirth fool you. It's not what it's about. Anyway, that is a long and rambling intro to this podcast of Seared Stories from a Self podcast. And we are going to jump into something that is close to me. You might know someone who struggles with this. This is kind of a little bit of a flashback, a reflection type of episode, but I feel like it might have some use, which is the whole point of this. Like, this is not a Dear Diary, or else I'd be writing in my diary saying, Dear Stinky World. Okay, let's get to this. So what came up for me, in literally a month from now, I will be celebrating 14 years of continuous sobriety. 14, it's a teenager. Awkward. Well, it's not awkward at all, but it'll be 14 years. And I was thinking about, obviously, alcohol and drinking and, alcoholism or alcohol abuse disorder, whatever you want to call it. And I was thinking about how that has been reflected, like the alcoholic chef, right? It's a trope, it's a stereotype, and living stereotype here, me waving my hand. But I was thinking about this morning and I thought, we've heard Anthony Bourdain, I read his book. He kind of exposed that dark underbelly of chefs and cooks and that, in hospitality industry in general, to be honest. But, there's this trope of the alcoholic chef. And I was thinking about just my 25 years I was doing as I was being a chef, which was coincidentally, I did about 25 years of drinking. I'm not saying one was, the causation, whole thing, correlation thing. I had my own reasons for picking up the bottle. But definitely being a chef and in kitchens and that environment and having the keys to the liquor cabinet, that didn't help. And who would have known? Probably lots of people knew. It's probably my worst kept secret. I was thinking about, it's such a prevalent thing, but I was casting my mind back about 25 in those times. I'm like, how many other alcoholic chefs did I meet? And I have to say, I don't know I didn't meet many. And I was thinking, okay, well then is this blown out of proportion? Is this just because it's a trope, it's a stereotype? Because I can count honestly 2 chefs that I know for sure because they were in 12-step programs. So I know that for sure. And there's no doubt that there were some really hard drinking chefs and cooks and servers and managers, et cetera, et cetera. Because again, it's part of the culture. It's the environment. It's the hours. It's the labor. All the things. Right? I'm not making excuses. These are, there's people who work in these environments and don't touch a drop. So it's not the environment per se, but if you have a tendencies toward vices, this doesn't help. Let's put it that way. It's not like working in a government office. So I was thinking, I didn't meet a lot of chefs who would maybe consider themselves alcoholic. Maybe people flirting with it. Again, hard drinkers, absolutely lots of hard drinkers. But these were people, when I think back, were able to stop. They were able to cut down. They were able, and it also had me thinking, what is it now? Like, what's it like now? And I'm not in circles. I'm not in the chefy circles, but from what I read and I kind of look at, and some people I do follow, and the general vibe I get is that I feel like there's a lot less of that. I see a lot of chefs talking about living sober lives and who weren't like rock bottom alcoholics like me. They just decided they weren't gonna continue the damaging liver lineage, if you will, of cook chefdom. Are there still cooks and chefs like hardcore? Absolutely. At the after hours clubs, whatever. Yeah, I'm sure. But I feel like it's dwindling. And I was looking for stats. I was looking for something. I couldn't find anything. I did see some articles talking about Canadian men, even Canadian men, like reducing their intake. I think just people in general have been stepping into a more healthy lifestyle. And that includes alcohol. And you can see it with all the, not just even the mocktails, like you can see just like whole movements of people with creating non-alcoholic cultures and communities and movements. And I feel like, people coming, especially now Gen Z coming in, and because it's a young person's game. The cooks, hospitality is generally a young person's game, except when you get to management, then you get old guys like me in there. But I feel like boomers and Gen Xers and a lot of, the Gen Zs and millennials. So basically everyone. Did I miss one? I think there's just an overall feeling of wanting to be healthier. And so I feel like that trope is starting to dissipate. And I hope it does. I know that statistically, hospitality industry, and there's other industries like construction, like fisheries, like I used to have them all memorized because I used to talk about this a lot. But certainly, first responders and, used to have really high rates of alcohol and drug use disorders. But I just feel like in this, I think it's just like a full movement just culturally where we're seeing the sober curious. We are seeing people just generally just not into getting hammered every night. Like it's just not part of what's going on out there. And of course, there are people getting hammered. There are people who are struggling. There are people who need recovery programs. But I get the sense that it's not as prevalent. I could be just in my own little bubble here and just making shit up. But I get the sense because I've been looking and connecting still with other cooks and chefs, and you don't see the party stuff anymore. You don't see people chugging stuff, on the line. You don't, and it's great. And I just want to say all of this to say that I think it's wonderful. Not because I'm not one of those sober people that think everyone else should be sober. I have nothing against alcohol. I don't. People can enjoy it and people can have fun with it. And it's up to them what they do with it. Addiction is awful, and I don't wish it on anyone. But it's always going to be addiction of some kind, whether it's a substance. There's also going to screens, all that. We're just human. We're just these human dopamine like thingies walking around that need some sort of like hit at some point, some fix. But what we're seeing now is people recognizing that they don't want to have these fixes, or they want to have healthy outlets, and they want to exercise more, and they want to be more spiritual, and they want to be all these things. And I think it's wonderful. And so I'm not one of those sober people, again, that thinks everyone has to be sober. Not at all. Is it nice to see people be healthy and take care of their wellness? Absolutely. Emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, it's so important. And doing that kind of job as a chef, it's so key to be focused and clear and connected and grounded and, physically fit, because it is a tough game. It's a tough occupation. And, was it in Animal House? Being drunk and stupid is no way to go through life, or some quote like that. And I was like that. I was just drunk and disconnected and uncertain and just full of, self-loathing. And it was hard for me. Like, I am shocked that I did so well. I am shocked. Like, I think if I hadn't been drinking, like, where could I have gone? But I can't sit with those thoughts. I can't think the what ifs. It does me no good. And I have to admit, for so long, I regretted. I mean, I was like, I wish I can get my 30s back. My 30s were just a blur, and I had much, and I wish, because that's, in your 30s, you have a lot of energy. And yes, when you're most ambitious, and that's when you really step into, making more money and all that kind of stuff. And I just pissed it all away, like literally and figuratively, pissed it all away, because I had just had my whatever you want, demons, or just my things that I had to handle, and I wasn't handling them. Well, I was handling them through alcohol. That's, drinking is not the problem, it's the solution. And I had my solution. I wasn't a problem drinker. I drank like a champ. That wasn't a problem. it was being sober that was a problem for me. And once you learn to step away from whatever it is that holds you, clutches you in its sweaty palm, you understand that there's so much more to life, and there's so much more clarity and joy. And yes, there's valleys as well, but you learn to manage them, and you learn to be with them in a way that helps you grow and challenges you and changes you. And the moment I picked up that bottle, all change stopped. Like, I was 40 when I got sober. I started drinking at 15, and it's like I went to a party at 15 and didn't come back till I was 40. When I got sober, I was like, emotionally, I was like a teenager. I really was. Like, those charts where people like, what, with the faces, like, how are you feeling? Because I needed almost one of those charts, because I couldn't recognize, was I sad? Was I distraught? Was I amused? I didn't know. I didn't know how to manage and even name my feelings. And like, how do you work with that? Like, I don't know how I did it. I don't know. But I can't regret. And I think maybe that's the message. That is the message. I have to do a lot of talking before I get to the core. Because I know people who said, I wish I got out of that marriage earlier. I wish I got out of that relationship earlier. I wish I'd left that job earlier. I wish, but you didn't. I didn't stop drinking for a long time. I wish I had stopped, but would that make me the person I am today? Would I be talking to you right now in a podcast? Or would I be working at a Pet Value warehouse? Or would I be still slinging, diner food somewhere? I don't know. But I had to go through this to get where I am here. And it sucked at the time, and it hurt me, and it hurt other people. And I had to really forgive myself and release myself of that guilt and shame, or else it's a cycle. And for anyone who maybe like upset with themselves, pissed off, like, why did I stay so long? I'm so stupid. Like that language is not helping. We can't go back in the past. We don't have time machines, but we can shift what we think about the past. And so instead of me going back and saying what an idiot I was, what a jerk, you're stupid, I'm like, I was a different person then. I was doing the best with what I had. I didn't know any better. Or if I did know better, I didn't go there. I went with what was comfortable. And I had to forgive that part of me and just say, hey, but I also realized that person brought me to where I was now. That person said, enough is enough. No more drinking. I can't do this anymore. So I have to thank that earlier version of me that loved themselves just enough to bring them to where I am now. Just like where I am now in 5 years, 10 years is going to take me to, or 5 months, 5 weeks, whatever it is, it's going to take me to the next version of me. Same with you. And so instead of berating ourselves, lashing ourselves with a wet noodle, not gluten-free, just a regular noodle, I'm sorry, take the lashes. We're not beating ourselves up and saying, oh, you moron, why didn't you do this? Why couldn't you see anything? We can connect the dots looking back. So if you're one of those folks who are beating themselves up, I invite you to step into some self-forgiveness. And that was the hardest thing I had to do, but the most enlightening things I could do was to forgive myself. Just like I forgive anyone who may have done something, I just see them as that's where they were. I don't condone maybe what they have done to me or what I did to myself. I don't condone it. I wouldn't want to do it again. That's where making amends and making changes are important. That's why we do that. But I recognize that that's who I was. Just like when you look back at being a gawky teen, you know, you're all knees and elbows and awkward and hormones and just, you know, how a teen would be. You know, you look back and you kind of laugh at it and go, well, I went through my emo phase. I went through my goth phase. I went through my death metal phase. I went through my whatever. And you look back at it kind of fondly and a little, maybe a bit of cringe and all that. But we rarely like beat ourselves up over it. And that's kind of the same feeling. So when I look back at my boozy, chefy self, I look at it like that's who I was. That was just another phase I needed to go through, as painful as it was, to get to where I am now. And I invite you again to do that for yourself, to not beat yourself up, to understand that where you are now, you recognize that that wasn't healthy. So I'm not doing that again. And that's the lesson. And sometimes it takes a longer time than we'd like it to, but we still get the lesson. And that's the most important thing. So I think I'll leave it there. Start about booze and the industry and kind of my place in that. And now we're into this place of self-forgiveness and kindness to ourselves and understanding that this is all just, these are just different stages that we're stepping into, and we can elevate ourselves continually. And the sooner that we can recognize that something is not working for us, we can make the shift. We can recognize, aha, that's what I've been doing. Maybe that's how I've been doing it. I don't want to do that anymore because I have another vision for myself. And you make the adjustments, and you're constantly making those adjustments. And for some people, it just gets faster and faster because they recognize, oh, I'm doing this and this and this. And that's where self-awareness comes in. And things like, you know, and people that have done therapy or coaching or, you know, any sort of self-development, personal growth work. And so you can catch yourself because you are important. You're needed. You're here for a reason. And part of it is just to experience life. I feel like we're here just to experience life and grow, and that's it. And expand ourselves and be of service to others and let them experience our energy, experience you. Because you're awesome. Because you're listening or watching today. That's awesome enough. All right. Gonna wrap that up. Two things. I'm gonna continue my You Are Gumbo YouTube channel. I'm having fun with it still. So check that out. Also, I am currently doing still doing soulful guidance sessions, and that is the TLDR. These are sessions sort of like energy healing, like I use cards and tarot and shamanic stuff. There might be some intuitive hits. There might be bone and charm cat, like I have all my spiritual tools, and you know, you book a reading. It's remote. You don't have to be there. It's not live. It's not like a Zoom call. And you ask them, there's a form, you ask some questions, like, what is it that you want to know more about? And I tap into your energy and your guides, and I just get information different ways. I record it, take any pictures of like whatever it is I'm using. I send it to you, and you should have some additional guidance and clarity. And it could be about any sort of situation. Those are open. I do have a coupon that's going to run for the next couple days. It's Fool 15. I'll leave it here in the description on the video. And yeah, book. I've got a few that I'm gonna do one after I do this recording. And yeah, check it out. Use the code 15% off. It's Fool 15. And also, be cool. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Kitchen's closed. That's Graham.